I stood at the counter of Willow Creek First National Bank, my fingers trembling around a piece of plastic that looked older than the suburbs themselves. The bank card was faded to a ghostly gray, the embossed numbers worn smooth like ancient runes, and the magnetic strip had a deep gouge that screamed, "This thing belongs in a landfill." I felt like a fraud just holding it. "I'm really sorry to waste your time," I whispered to the teller, a silver-haired guy whose name tag read Mr. Hargrove. "It's ancient. My dad gave it to me forever ago. Probably empty, but maybe a few bucks for groceries." Mr. Hargrove gave me the gentle smile of a man who'd seen every kind of desperation. "No bother at all. Mrs. Harper," he said, taking the card like it was a holy relic. He swiped it. His polite expression froze, then drained. His eyes bulged behind wire-rimmed glasses. He stared at the screen, then at me, then back. "Mrs. Harper," his voice cracked like thin ice. "Could you please step behind the counter right now?" My stomach plunged. The entire lobby turned. A soccer mom with a stroller shot me a pitying glance. An old guy in golf pants whispered to his wife. Heat flooded my face. What had I done? Was the card stolen? Had Dad done something shady? 2 security guards materialized, moving fast. "I swear I didn't," I started, but Mr. Hargrove was already guiding me through a side door marked private, down a hallway that smelled of lemon polish and bad decisions. My knees shook. The guards followed like I was a flight risk. We entered a small office. He practically shoved me into a chair, sat, typed furiously, then turned the monitor toward me with the gravity of a bomb technician. "Mrs. Harper, I need to verify your identity. Driver's license." My hands were pure jelly. I fumbled my wallet, slid the card across. He cross-checked, asked my mother's maiden name, Dad's full name, the hospital I was born in. I answered in a ghost voice. But let me rewind 3 days. Because 3 days ago, I was still Emily Harper. Proud, if broke, owner of 142 Maple Lane in Willow Creek Estates. The picture-perfect suburb where every blade of grass salutes the flag and HOA violations cost more than rent in most cities. The house was all I had left after Richard cleaned me out in the divorce. 12 years of marriage. Gone. He kept the cars, the investments, the business. I kept the mortgage and the HOA from hell. And Karen Delaney, president for life, self-appointed guardian of perfection, had decided I was the neighborhood's new public enemy. It started small. My ex had left the lawn a mess. One Tuesday, Karen's golf cart rolled up like a tank. She was 50-something, helmet blonde hair, sprayed into submission, pearls that probably cost more than my car, and a smile so fake it could curdle milk. "Emily, dear," she cooed, clipboard in hand. "The bylaws clearly state Bermuda grass must be exactly 3 inches. Yours is 2.8. Fine issued, $250. I paid it. Then came a mailbox. Wrong shade of approved beige. Darling. Another $250. Then the gnome. Yes, a garden gnome. Statuary must not exceed 12 inches. Yours is 13. $500. I paid them all because I was terrified of liens. But Karen wasn't done. She started the whispers at the community pool. Divorcees bring down property values. You know, we must protect our investment. Neighbors nodded like bobbleheads. My grocery budget shrank to ramen. I lost my part-time job at the library because the stress migraines made me miss shifts. That's when I found the envelope, buried in Dad's old jacket in the back of the closet. Yellowed, addressed in his blocky handwriting. For my Emily, when the world tries to bury you. Inside, the ancient card and a note. Keep this safe. Kiddo, use it only when you truly need it. Love, Dad. Dad had been dead 17 years. He'd been the original developer who built Willow Creek Estates from scratch on cheap industrial land nobody wanted. Worked construction his whole life. Patched roofs. Fixed fences. Never had two nickels to rub together. I figure maybe $50 on the card. Enough for one more week before the next fine hit. So yesterday morning, I walked into this bank feeling like the poorest woman in America. Now I sat here watching Mr. Hargrove's face do gymnastics. "Mrs. Harper," he said, voice low, "did your father ever mention finances?" "Finance." I laughed bitterly. Dad fixed toilets for a living. He ate tuna casserole 4 nights a week and walked to work to save bus fare. Mr. Hargrove removed his glasses, rubbed his eyes, put them back. "I've been here 30 years. Never seen anything like this." He spun the monitor. Numbers. So many zeros they look like a phone number. My brain short-circuited. That can't be right. "It's right," he said gently. $47 million. And the account is yours. Sole beneficiary. The room tilted. I gripped the desk. One guard stepped closer in case I face-planted. "Breathe. Mrs. Harper, $47 million. From the land Dad sold to the original developer with a secret 5% royalty clause nobody thought would amount to anything. Until Willow Creek became the hottest suburb in the state. The money had compounded for 17 years in a trust Dad set up, so no ex-husband, no creditor, no greedy relative could ever touch it. But Karen's been fining me into bankruptcy," I whispered. "She suspects something, Mr. Hargrove said. "I'm serious. 3 months ago, someone using your name, an SSN, tried to probe this account. We flagged it. 3 months ago. Right when Karen started her crusade. Right when Richard's divorce lawyers were digging. The pieces clicked like a horror movie. Karen hadn't just hated my lawn. She'd been hunting my money. And now the hunter was about to become the prey. I left the bank through a back exit like a celebrity dodging paparazzi. Mr. Hargrove insisted, no lobby stairs. I walked blocks in a daze, the card burning a hole in my pocket. $47 million. My dad, the man who wore the same 3 flannel shirts until they frayed, had been secretly richer than the entire HOA board combined. He'd chosen poverty so I could have freedom. The thought made me laugh-cry on a park bench while joggers and $1,000 sneakers stared. Back home, the mailbox already had a new pink violation slip. Unapproved holiday wreath. Remove immediately. $300. Karen's handwriting. Loopy and vicious. I didn't rip it up. I smiled. For the first time in months. I smiled. The next morning, Karen's golf cart appeared at dawn like a vulture. She wore her official HOA blazer, navy with gold president embroidery, and the smile of a woman who'd already won. "Emily, dear, the board met last night. Your fines now total $12,000. Pay by Friday, or we file a lien. We can't have elements dragging down values." Elements. Meaning me, the divorced woman with a slightly overgrown azaleas. Behind her, 3 neighbors nodded like trained seals. Mrs. Peterson from across the street clutched her Yorkie and whispered, "It's for the community." "Emily." I want to scream. Instead, I said sweetly, "Of course, Karen. I'll handle it." She blinked. Thrown. No tears. No begging. Just calm. That night, I called the trust lawyer Mr. Hargrove recommended, Mr. Caldwell. Sharp as a tack. I told him everything. The fines. The whispers. Karen's sudden interest in my finances. He laughed once. Dry. Classic. She's been embezzling dues for years. Private pool upgrades. Her daughter's wedding in the clubhouse. But the charter your father wrote has a reversion clause. If the HOA acts in bad faith, the beneficiary can dissolve the board and reclaim oversight. My jaw dropped. Dad hadn't just left money. He'd left me the nuclear option. The next day, Karen escalated. She posted on the neighborhood Facebook page, private, Of course, concerned residents. Certain homeowners are ignoring bylaws and inviting crime. Photos attached. Photos of my trash, visible for 6 minutes on pickup day. Comments flooded. Disgrace. Property values will tank. Karen for life. I'll watch from my couch. Sipping coffee I could finally afford. Then the kicker, a certified letter. Foreclosure proceedings initiated for unpaid assessments. They were trying to steal my house. My only asset. Richard had taken everything else. But this house, built on Dad's land, was supposed to be my anchor. Now, Karen wanted it for pennies. I laughed until I cried again. Black humor at its finest. The HOA Karen who preached community standards was about to learn what happens when the quiet mouse finds the trapdoor. But I stayed silent. I watched. I documented every fine, every lie, every neighbor who turned coat. Karen grew bolder. She started random inspections with her little entourage, snapping photos of my welcome mat, non-regulation color. While her husband parked his lifted truck in the fire lane and nobody said boo. At the monthly HOA meeting, she stood at the podium like a queen. We must protect our oasis, she declared, voice dripping honey. Some people think rules don't apply to them. Eyes slid to me in the back row. I smiled and waved. The room shifted uncomfortably. Karen's smile faltered for half a second. She wasn't used to prey that didn't cower. That night my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Emily? It's Judith, my sister. Estranged for 8 years since she called Dad a loser for never making it. I heard you're having HOA trouble. And rumors about money. Her voice was sugar laced with venom. If there's anything from Dad, we should share. Sisters, right? I'll let the silence stretch. Dad made his choices. Judith, I'm honoring them. She used a few choice words about greed before I hung up. Then Richard texted from a burner. Heard you hit the lottery. That house is half mine. We'll talk. I blocked him too. Let them circle. I had 47 million and a clause that could nuke their world. The next morning, Karen's cart screeched up again. This time she brought the entire board. Emily, the fines are now $18,000. Pay, or we auction the house next month. It's in the bylaws. Dear, for the community. I stepped outside in yoga pants and a hoodie, holding nothing but my coffee. Karen, I said softly, you've been very thorough. Almost like you knew there was something worth taking. Her eyes flickered, just a flash of panic. I have no idea what you mean. Of course you don't. I smiled wider. But I think it's time we had a real board meeting. With all the books open. She laughed. Brittle. You're delusional. The meeting is next week. Bring your checkbook. As she sped off, I whispered to the empty street. Oh, Karen, you have no idea what checkbook I'm bringing. Inside, I opened the folder Mr. Caldwell had overnight. Bank statements, royalty contracts, the original charter Dad signed. And one more thing. Security footage from the bank showing Karen's private investigator trying to access the account 3 months ago. The trap was set. All I had to do was wait for the meeting. The neighbors would finally see the wizard behind the curtain. And the great and powerful Karen was about to discover her Oz was built on stolen dues and lies. I slept like a baby that night. For the first time in years, the fines didn't matter. Because the real fine was coming. And it was going to be spectacular. The community clubhouse was packed. Every resident who could walk showed up, lured by Karen's emergency email. Urgent vote on foreclosure to protect our values. She stood at the podium in a power red blazer, gavel in hand like a judge at a hanging. Order, please. We have a regrettable situation with 142 Maple Lane. MS. Harper has ignored 17 violations totaling $22,000. The board recommends lien and auction. Applause rippled. Mrs. Peterson clutched her pearls. Think of the children. Karen's smile was pure theater. It's not personal, Emily. It's the bylaws. I sat in the front row now. First time ever. holding a thick binder. No shaking hands. No tears. Just calm. When she called for questions, I stood. The room hushed. Karen, before we vote, mind if I share a few documents? She rolled her eyes. If you must. But the rules are the rules. I walked up, plugged my laptop into the projector. First slide, Dad's original land sale contract. 25 years ago, my father sold this land with a royalty clause, 5% of all profits. That built every house here. Murmurs. Second slide, the trust balance. 47 million. Gasps. Third slide, the charter clause Dad wrote himself. If the HOA board acts in bad faith or for personal gain, the beneficiary may dissolve the board and assume control. Karen's face went the color of spoiled milk. That's not real. Oh, it's real, I said. And here's the fun part. Next slide, bank inquiry logs. Karen's investigator's name. Timestamped 3 months ago. Someone was fishing for hidden assets right before the fine started. Almost like they knew about the money. The room exploded in whispers. Karen gripped the podium. This is slander. I demand all you want. I cut in. Voice steel. Because here are the HOA books. Slide after slide. Missing dues funneled to Karen's home renovations. Her daughter's destination wedding billed as clubhouse rental. Her husband's boat docked in the community pond. Black and white proof. You fined me for a gnome while you stole $60,000 in dues. A man in the back stood. My pool assessment went up 20% last year. Where did that go? Another woman. You told me my fence was illegal. But yours is 6 inches over the line. The bobbleheads turned. Karen's entourage shrank. She tried to smile again. This is all a misunderstanding. For the community, I echoed, letting the sarcasm drip, that you've been fleecing while preaching perfection. I clicked the final slide. Security footage of her golf cart dumping trash in the common area at midnight. Violation, she'd fined others $500 for. The room went dead silent. Then laughter bubbled up. Real laughter. The kind that comes when the emperor is caught naked. Karen's face twisted. You're a liar. I'll sue you for every penny. With what? I asked sweetly. The board is dissolved effective now. Per the charter. My lawyer's already filed. Mr. Caldwell stood from the back row and nodded. Papers are notarized. New management starts today. Karen's gavel clattered. She looked around for allies. They were all staring at their shoes. One by one, residents stood and clapped, slow at first, then thunderous. Mrs. Peterson actually apologized. I believed her. We all did, I said. Until we didn't. Karen stormed out, heels clicking like retreating gunfire. But the story wasn't over. That night my phone blew up. Judith again. You owe me half. Dad would want it shared. Richard from a new number. Baby, we can rebuild together. That money is family money. I blocked both. Then a knock. Karen at my door. Mascara streaked. Voice small. Emily, please. My reputation. My position. I'll drop everything if you just forget the books. I looked at her, once terrifying, now pathetic. Karen, you spent years making me feel small for a gnome. Now you're begging. How's that for community standards? She left sobbing. The next morning, the neighborhood Facebook page had a new admin me. First post, HOA fines wiped. Dues halved. New rules, be decent to each other. No more Karen. Likes exploded. But the real satisfaction came at the emergency board meeting 2 days later. Karen showed up uninvited, clutching her pearls. I demand reinstatement. The new board, 5 regular homeowners I'd chosen, voted unanimously to ban her from the property for financial misconduct. She screamed, "This is theft. I built this neighborhood." "No," I said from the front. "My father built it. You just looted it." Security escorted her out while residents filmed on their phones. The video hit local news that night. HOA president exposed in $1 million embezzlement scheme. Karen's face splashed everywhere. Her husband left her the next week. Black humor at peak. The woman who fined me for visible trash cans now had her own face on every trash can in town. I sat on my porch that evening, watching kids ride bikes without fear of safety violation tickets. For the first time, the neighborhood felt like home. But I knew the real work was just beginning. Because freedom isn't just money. It's making sure no one else ever gets buried by Karen again. 2 weeks later, the district attorney's office called. Karen's books were a goldmine of fraud. Wire transfers to her personal account. Fake invoices. Even a community improvement fund that paid for her facelift. We're charging her with embezzlement, the DA said. Your evidence was airtight. I didn't gloat. I just thanked him and hung up. But inside, pure hallelujahs. The woman who'd made my life hell was now wearing an ankle monitor and facing 10 years. Neighbors brought casseroles like it was a funeral for her. Mrs. Peterson left a note. I was wrong. Thank you for saving us from her. Saving us. That felt better than any million. Judith showed up in person next. She stood on my porch in designer knockoffs. Eyes greedy. Emily, we're blood. Dad would hate to see you hoard everything. I handed her a manila envelope. Here's your share. Her face lit up until she opened it. $1. For the sister who called Dad a failure, I said. Use it wisely. She sputtered. Call me every name in the book. Then stormed off. Richard tried once more. He showed up at the community gate in a rented suit, looking like a man who'd lost his script. Emily, I made mistakes, but that money could fix us. I met him at the gate with 2 security guards, courtesy of my new wealth management team. Richard, you left me with $43 in a suitcase. I'm returning the favor, metaphorically. He threatened lawsuits. My lawyers laughed. The trust was ironclad. He slunk away, and the last I heard, he was selling used cars in another state. Karen's fall kept giving. The local paper ran a front-page story. HOA Karen's empire crumbles. Secret millions save neighborhood. Residents started calling me the quiet hero. I hated the title, but I used the attention. I created the Willow Creek Freedom Fund. Dad's $47 million seeded it. First act, paid off every single resident's past HOA fines. Second, cut dues in half permanently. Third, tore up the ridiculous bylaws. No more known police. No more beige-only mailboxes. Just common sense. The black humor peaked when Karen's house went up for sale. Turns out she'd used embezzled money for the down payment. Foreclosure. I bought it anonymously and turned it into a community center for single moms and divorcees. Free legal help. Job training. The works. The irony wrote itself. The woman who tried to foreclose on me now had her mansion turned into a shelter for people like me. At the ribbon cutting, residents cheered. I stood on the porch where Karen once posed for her president photos and said simply, "This is what real community looks like." That night, I drove to the little cemetery plot at the edge of the neighborhood. Dad had insisted on being buried here when he sold the land. So I can keep an eye on things, he joked. I sat on the grass with yellow roses, his favorite, and talked like he was right there. Hi, Dad. I found the money. And the claws. And I used them. Tears came easy. I was so angry at first. Why live poor when you had millions? But I get it now. You wanted me to learn kindness before comfort. You wanted me to be the kind of person who doesn't become a Karen. I told him about the fund. The scholarships in his name for kids whose parents work construction like him. The apartment buildings I bought in the next town over. Affordable housing with no HOA nonsense. I didn't destroy her completely, I said. I just made sure she can never hurt anyone again. And I chose to build instead of burn. The breeze picked up, rustling the trees like applause. I placed the roses against the simple stone. Edward Langford, beloved father, builder of dreams. Thank you for the freedom. Dad, I'm using it right. As I walked back to my car, My phone buzzed. A text from one of the women at the news center. Just got my first job in 2 years. My kids are sleeping in their own rooms tonight. Thank you. I smiled at the screen. That was worth more than every zero in the bank. The next morning, the new HOA board, real homeowners, no presidents for life, voted to rename the street I lived on. Maple Lane became Langford Way. I laughed until I cried. Karen would have hated it. Perfect. 6 months later, Willow Creek Estates looked the same from the outside. Pristine lawns. Beautiful homes, but inside it was unrecognizable. No more fear. No more golf cart tyrants. Kids played in the streets without violation slips. Neighbors actually talked instead of spying. And I was just Emily again, drinking coffee on my porch, watching the sun rise over a neighborhood that finally felt free. The Freedom Fund had already helped 43 families. We paid off medical debt for a single dad, funded college for 3 kids, covered legal fees so a woman could fight her own ex. Each story reminded me of that day at the bank when $43 was all I had. The best revenge, I realized, wasn't watching Karen rot in court, though the sentencing hearing had been delicious. She stood in an orange jumpsuit, pearls gone, begging for mercy. The judge read the charges and said, "You abused the very community you claim to protect. 5 years. No parole." Black humor finale. The woman who fined me for holiday wreaths now wore one around her ankle. But I didn't linger on her. I focused on the living. My sister Judith finally stopped calling after the restraining order. Richard sent one last pathetic email begging for just $10,000 for old times' sake. I forwarded it to my lawyer with a note. File under pathetic. Then I moved on. The real joy came at the first annual scholarship ceremony. The George Langford Opportunity Awards. 10 kids from working-class families, kids whose dads fixed roofs and moms cleaned offices, stood on stage holding checks that would change their futures. One girl, 17, hugged me after. "My dad works 2 jobs like your dad did," she whispered. "He said to tell you thank you for giving us a chance he never got." Her father, a quiet man with calloused hands, shook mine. "You didn't just give money. You gave hope." I thought of Dad fixing toilets so tenants could stay warm, wearing patch boots to save pennies. He'd be proud. That evening I stood at the window of my modest, yes, still modest 2-bedroom, looking out at the neighborhood lights. No mansion, no yacht, just enough. Because Dad taught me wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in lives touched. I kept the house simple on purpose. The money was working, not sitting. I expanded the Freedom Fund to 2 more suburbs. Bought 3 more apartment buildings with fair rents and prompt repairs. Started a legal clinic for anyone fighting abusive HOAs anywhere. The best part? The quiet ones who'd suffered like me now had a voice. And Karen? Last I heard, she was living in a studio apartment above a laundromat, working retail, and posting passive-aggressive rants on a new Facebook page nobody followed. The empire of fear she built had collapsed into a sad little footnote. I didn't hate her anymore. I pitied her, because she never learned what Dad taught me. Real power isn't control. It's freedom. And freedom is what you give away. My phone buzzed again. Another text from a woman helped by the center. Just closed on my first house. "No HOA, thank you for showing me it's possible." I typed back, "You did the hard work." I just opened the door. Then I closed the laptop and stepped outside. The night air smelled like fresh-cut grass, still 3 inches, but nobody measuring. A neighbor waved. A kid rode by on a bike yelling, "Thanks, MS. Emily." I waved back. Somewhere in the distance a breeze rustled the trees near Dad's grave. I could almost hear him chuckle. "Told you, kiddo, when the world gets hard, you fight smart." I smiled at the sky. I did, Dad, and I'm still fighting the right way. The next morning, I opened the community center early. A new family walked in, single mom, 2 kids, eyes tired but hopeful. "We heard you help people starting over," she said. I poured coffee and smiled. "Welcome to Willow Creek. Rules here are simple. Be kind. The rest we figure out together." As they settled in, I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who paid fines in silence, who let Karen make her small. She was gone. In her place was someone who understood that the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation, and that the real fortune Dad left wasn't millions in a bank. It was the strength to use them well. I picked up my notebook and started planning the next expansion. 3 more cities, more scholarships, more doors opened, because somewhere out there were more Karens, more quiet victims, more neighborhoods waiting for someone to flip the script. And now I had the tools, the money, and, most important, the lesson. I wasn't just Emily Harper anymore. I was the daughter of a man who chose kindness over comfort. And I was finally free, truly free. The end of one story, the beginning of hundreds more. And every single one of them would be better because one quiet woman refused to stay silent when the HOA Karen finally pushed too far.